Cremation versus burial. The Theosophical Society, I believe, advocates the former, but would not the burying of, say, bodies of a pure type, help on the evolution of the lower forms of nature, and therefore be preferable to cremation? Bertram Keightley's response to this question, published in the Vahan in 1898. The grounds on which Theosophy advocates cremation are manifold, but, I think, they may be briefly summarized under the following heads. 1. Sanitary. Occult and ordinary physical science both agree that the products resulting from the putrefying processes in animal bodies are exceedingly dangerous and injurious to the living. The bacteria and microbes which multiply so enormously, and by which the process of decay is effected, are liable to do most serious injury to the living when, by means of water, air, or otherwise they gain access to the living body, while the germs of specific disease, typhus, smallpox, scarlet fever, consumption, diphtheria, etc., spread through the earth by the percolation of water through the soil of the cemetery in which the corpse of one dying of the disease in question has been buried, also carry the infection far and wide. From the occult standpoint, the sanitation of these subtler influences, which play a far larger part in human life than is generally recognized, is most seriously impeded and hindered by the presence of decaying animal bodies and the subtle influences accompanying them. Every one of these dangers is entirely removed by cremating the dead body at a high temperature. 2. As affecting the soul. The onward progress of the soul is more or less delayed, and the breaking up of the astral body retarded, by the slowness of ordinary decomposition, while the destruction of the corpse by fire causes the immediate break-up of the etheric double, and thus severs the magnetic tie which otherwise tends to hold the soul back. 3. As to the specific point raised, it seems to rest upon a complete misconception of what the process of decay involves. A distinction must be made between the chemical elements, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, of which the body ultimately consists, and the highly complex compounds of these which form the organic cells. Now the fact is that none of the lower forms of life assimilate the cells themselves as living cells. These are first killed, broken up and chemically changed before assimilation, so that it is the chemical elements, not their organized compounds, which are taken up by the lower forms. And hence it does not in the least matter, so far as the evolution of these lower forms goes, whether the oxygen, nitrogen, etc., are supplied to them direct by the process of cremation, or through intermediate stages of chemical decomposition by burying the body. All organic bodies are broken up into their chemical elements, either quickly or slowly, and though undoubtedly the body of a highly evolved and pure man is built of the finer orders of physical matter, that matter is just as available for other uses when set free by cremation, as when more slowly resolved by putrefaction. Indeed, I myself believe that the finer and purer kinds of matter are much more likely to be kept available for the purposes they are needed for when a body is cremated than when it is buried. For on cremation, all the heavier and more complex forms of matter are first broken up and refined by the fire, and then set free to follow their natural affinities, while when burial is resorted to, a set of highly specialized conditions are set up which seem well calculated to force the purer and finer kinds of matter to enter into gross and complex combinations of lower orders, and so actually lessen the amount of fine and developed matter available for building the higher and purer types of body. In chemistry, by means of specially adjusted conditions and the expenditure of energy, we can force chemical elements to enter into combinations which are unnatural, i.e., which are more or less repugnant to the nature of the elements in question, and I see no reason why a similar result should not be brought about in the case of burial. Certainly, when it is desired to purify and set free the various orders of matter in their present condition, fire is usually employed to effect that purpose. and it seems to me that this principle must hold good in the case of the human body. But the case for cremation is so absolutely overwhelming in every aspect, that one can only wonder at the curious strength of a prejudice which delays the adoption of a method of disposing of the dead body that simply has everything in its favor, whether from the standpoint of the living or from that of the soul which has been set free from that encasement.